Oh, and I did message because I'm actually coming to Boca Thursday. I speak at an event Friday, and I
Oh,
saw that
cool.
you messaged. I was like, shit, maybe I could have came done it in person, but I think this will be fine. I think this will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be good.
All right. Bam! Jayson Waller here. That's right, with Jayson Waller Unleashed. I am super excited today to bring to talk to somebody here that not only do we have a friend of a friend that knows each other, but this guy's been running an awesome business. He's had to overcome major adversity, went to prison, and fucking bounced back. He's out there on the mainstream writing a book and living the American dream, even though he hit a fucking brick wall. So that's super exciting to hear compared to my story, hitting the brick wall and rebuilding. I've got my man Aaron Singerman here, CEO and founder of Redcon. How you doing, brother?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you and talk about our similar stories. Different but similar. Thankfully, you didn't have to go through the prison stuff, but you definitely went through some stuff of your own.
I did. It was tough, and you know we had some lawsuits go out. A lot of them were getting thrown out, and it's tough. But I remember when you were going through some things. We had a mutual friend that was telling me like, "Hey, you know, this guy built a great business," and I was watching some of the story on Savannah Chrisley's podcast. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the type that I don't want to have fixed questions, right? I go in there and what I know about you, great. What I don't know about you, I'm going to ask, but I get excited just like the viewers will get excited to know who is this guy. Now, obviously, I'm a fan of your product. It's the war drink. You know what I'm talking about?
Total War, of course, of
We
course.
drink the fuck out of that, by the way. So
Yes.
me and my son love that shit, and my daughter loves the one with its no caffeine. I got to understand the magic there that you still fucking get high energy without caffeine. But big fans of your product. You got a great business out there. But hearing your story of building this company and then hitting a brick wall and going to prison, but getting convicted, I think, at 19 and not going to prison to 2022 is what I'm most interested in, because that whole dynamic of knowing you're going, but still being able to work your business for 2 years is fucking crazy to me. So talk a little bit about building your company and what your vision was as an entrepreneur, because every entrepreneur has their map, they have their plan, they start to scale, they start to grow, they start to get their wins, they're living in the moment, but they're also pursuing their dreams, and then they got to hit some fucking oh shits. Tell me what happened.
Well, I definitely did all the typical things that an entrepreneur goes through. I've been fortunate enough to own about a dozen different levels of success in terms of businesses. Redcon would certainly be the most successful of any of the businesses that I've owned, but I've owned quite a few. And I went through all the typical things that entrepreneurs go through. The atypical things is like what you discussed. So I left a business called Blackstone Labs, which was my sports supplement company that sold pro hormones. And some of your listeners may have an idea about what that is. Maybe you, Jason, you heard of those before or
I
no?
have not, so
Okay,
I'm
so
interested. What is that?
you remember like Barry Bonds and like Mark McGuire when they were hitting all the home runs and they were taking these supplements that were
Yeah,
legal, but they were kind of like steroids, right?
yeah,
Those were pro hormones. Those were aldosterone, which is one of the very initial early pro hormones. Well, I sold those type of products along with a whole bunch of other products with this company, Blackstone Labs. It was a really bodybuilder based company. It was more for either bodybuilders or somebody who wants to get an edge but that doesn't want to break the law. And the
right.
law changed in 2014, December 14th, 2014, and it was called the Designer Steroid Control Act of 2014. And it had not passed two other times in 2010 and 2012, and then it passed right before Christmas break. Obama signed it into law, and in this law, 25 substances became anabolic steroids by law. Now, these substances were sold at GNC, Vitamin Shop, hundreds and really thousands of retail locations, Amazon before this, but as soon as this law was signed, they became illegal. And what we did at Blackstone Labs is we discontinued we had six substances that we thought were similar. Four of them were on the list, and we discontinued them immediately. We sent out letters to customers. All the employees signed a memo saying these are illegal. They can't be housed here. You can't have them here. We did a video explaining it. We got a legal opinion from a lawyer. Said these are illegal. Don't sell them. The two that aren't on the list can be added at any time. So don't keep a lot of inventory of them. And we ended up discontinuing selling them in August of 2015. Around then, in that
Yeah.
period of time, we stopped selling them around then. We never thought we did anything wrong at the time. I
Was
ended
that
up.
a big part of your business? So was that all you guys sold? So that was that fucking
It was
detrimental?
30% of the revenue, so it hurt
Okay,
a
that's
lot.
important to know for because that's how what the impact was when you had to stop selling it.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was this, Jason. So the four products accounted for about, I would say, about of the 30%, I would say at least 20%, at least 70% of the 30% was. So there was certainly the reason for us to want to keep the other two if they weren't on the list. Now the government's position, and what I ended up pleading guilty for and saying, well, what I did wrong was that we continued to sell those products, the two additional products that were not on the list.
Right.
Anyway, the government's position eventually, years down the road, was that that was wrong and that they were illegal. And then that's what we pled guilty for. But that was in 2014. I left that business and sold my shares in 2016, the beginning of 2016. And I started Redcon in 2016. In 2000, March of 2017, Blackstone Labs was raided by the FDA. And they were looking for those products, but they weren't there because they were discontinued. So my thought was that it was over. We were like, oh, I guess that nothing's going to happen. And I hired a criminal attorney who told me like nothing's going to happen essentially. And then in 2019, we were indicted by the federal government. By this point, I had been out of Blackstone for 3 years, and we hadn't sold the products for years and years, right? And so I was indicted in 2019, and I just assumed that it would fizzle out or something, right? I figured that
Right.
can't
What
possibly.
was that like? Like you think this shit goes away
Yeah.
for like a few years. You're like, all right, well, there's nothing there. Fucking moved on. I'm living a different life now. I'm running a different
Sure.
business. I've moved on to a different chapter. And then you had no fucking clue. They just randomly like, here you go.
Yeah, so like you said, Redcon One doesn't make any products like that at all. So
Right.
we're literally the highest standard of compliance. We don't make any products that are even remotely risky or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely two different lives. At Blackstone, I don't want to lie and tell people we didn't think we were edgy. We knew we were edgy. We're
Right.
purposely edgy. And we sold
There's a
products.
fine line, and you guys wrote it. I get
Yeah,
it. That happens.
we never wanted to break the law and go to prison. That's for damn
Right.
sure. But it was an edgy company. Blackstone Labs was. Redcon One is the polar opposite. I mean, we're sold in Walmart and every military exchange in the entire world, every forward operating base. We're sold in CVS, Walgreens. I mean, everywhere. GNC, Vitamin Shop, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be at this. We have to be kind of vanilla to some degree. We have to be benign. We can't be risky. So yeah, you feel like you've moved on. And then I was of all places, I was at a chiropractor, and my phone was on the counter, and I remember this very well because it kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. And the chiropractor goes, "Man, you were the most popular guy I've ever had in here, man. What is going on?" Because every time it'd ring, it would stop and ring again, stop and ring again, as he's like adjusting me and doing it. And I just had this bad feeling. I didn't even know what it was, but I was like, something's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get a lot of calls, but not where it's like continuous.
Right.
So when I got out, I looked at the phone and I saw that my lawyers, who I hadn't talked to in years at this point, my criminal lawyers called me, and I answered the phone and they said, "Bad news, Aaron. You're indicted by the federal government. It's a sealed indictment. You have to turn yourself in tomorrow morning at the federal court at 8 in the morning, and we'll deal with it then." And it was a shock. It was a super big shock, and I had to deal with that, with my wife, and it was very scary. And then hearing about the charges, because when they list the charges, they list them out one after another after another. It was 8 charges, and it sounds like each one of them, 10 years maximum, 10 years for this, 10 years for this. So it sounded like to my mom and to my wife at the time, and some of the people that were there, they're like, "Holy shit, Aaron could go away for the rest of his life for this."
Right.
Because they listed off one after another after another after another. And when we actually talked to the lawyers said like, maximally you could be looking at 10 years in prison for this. And my wife was shocked. I was shocked. And then the kind of the really crazy part, honestly, Jason, after that is that there's no finality for years and years later. Because this is in 2019, beginning of 2019. So I had all of 19, all of 20, all of 21, and then I went to prison in 2022. So really 3+ years of waiting. And that's the 3 biggest years we ever had of growth in my business. I've never experienced years of growth like that. So it wasn't like I slowed down or slipped up in business. In fact, I doubled down.
Right.
That's when I got a private equity partner. I think you know enough about it to say during a time where you're indicted by the federal government, the founder and CEO to be indicted by the federal government, you better have one hell of a strong company for a private equity fund to come in and go, I'm going to buy in, even though the founder and the leader of the business is indicted by the federal government. It's got to be doing pretty good.
Yeah. That is shocking, but your business has to be fucking top notch. I mean, A plus, A plus, because it's hard for people to even raise capital. I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
due diligence is a fucking nightmare. They go through, it takes forever. So that is like, and one of the biggest things they look at is who the CEO and founder is. Like,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
that? So that is huge that you were able to do that after that. I didn't know that happened after that. That's crazy.
No, it was big. It was big. It was very big. Our mutual friend,
But you're
you know,
owning that. Like you're not like you're like, look, this is who the fuck I am. This is what I've got. This is how I'm fighting this. But I've got this other business flourishing, and you're right up front with it. I call it like the Eminem factor, right? In 8 Mile, when he's like, "Here's all the shit
yeah.
going on. Say something about me you don't know." I'm a big fan of that. Like when you just put shit out there, it's like, like when I go up and I speak on stage, and people like Google me, like, "Oh, this guy's the Wolf of Wall Street," and fucking, had this $1 billion company, made hundreds of millions of dollars and shit, which isn't even true. But I just go out there and I say, here's what you're going to find. I've got to lay off 2,400 people. We had, 40,000 customers got left in the wind, and we fucking company lost $400 million. Tell me something you don't know about me now. Like, you get in front of it. That's what you did, right?
Absolutely. Well, with those guys, you have to do that with
Yeah.
with private equity for sure. And a lot of people, we talked to a lot of people, and the reason why I talked to them was because I wanted, obviously, I wanted chips off the table, so I wanted security for my family. I created this great business. It was throwing off a lot of money, but ultimately, I wanted security for my three little boys and my wife. And then the other thing was that I thought to myself, if I have a partner that invests many millions of dollars into the business, if the worst thing happens and I end up having to go to prison, at least I have a partner that's really vested,
Right.
in the success of the business. So I felt like it was important timing. And I told them all of those things. And I also told them that they're the only reason that I'm doing it. Because one of the things that they would say, and I'm not just talking about the people we went with, but
Yeah.
all the other people we talked to, is they wanted to try to be like, to discount the price based on this stuff, which is understandable. And I told
Right.
them, listen, the only reason I'm even talking to you is because this is happening. If I wasn't happening and I wasn't indicted by the federal government, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because I would borrow money from the bank. I would have a large line of credit. I wouldn't need to do any of this.
Right.
And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're right," because the business is doing great. So anyway, yeah, that level of, I had a lot of stress, a lot of factors, all at the same time, and the level of just the uncertainty of the whole thing was really really tough mentally. I'm very good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
I would say almost to a unhealthy level, where people would say like, this guy's just not dealing with things. But I am able to take and compartmentalize stress very well. And I did that all the way till the very end. So the very end, because I had told myself in my head that somehow I would beat it, like I would win. There's no way I'm going to go to prison for this. And I told everybody that. I told my private equity partners and friends and family and everybody, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I knew my case. I knew the situation. I knew so it's called mens rea, which is, intent. You have to have intent. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. Right. But at the end of the day, when we're really looking down the barrel of this whole thing, and realized that if I went to trial, I would have got 10 plus years. And if I admitted that I was guilty, and I took blame, and I said, well, okay, I should have known better, then I would be 2 years or less. That's what the lawyers told me. Serve 2 years or less. And at the end of the day, when you have three little boys, 2 years or less, you're missing some stuff. You're missing some football games, but you're not missing their life.
Yeah.
10 years or more, you're rolling the dice on forever ruining your family, hurting your children. Certainly I wouldn't have come back to a business. There would be no Redcon one right now.
Yeah.
There would be no. I certainly wouldn't have been married. It would have been the end of what the world as I know it. So at the end of the day, when I pled guilty, that's when I really fell apart. Like you said, and we talked earlier, you said you had a few months of being really like dealing with some mental stress after all the stuff went down with your business. For me, that 3 months or so from the time that I pled guilty, which is actually interesting. I don't. I have a lot of critical things to say about the Bureau of Prisons and the legal system, because I've been through it, and I've been through it as a convict, as the lowest of the low, as scum of the earth. Right. That's how you're treated.
Right.
And I've also, I've lived a really great life and a lot of stuff. I've seen really the dynamics, and I've seen how prisoners come out of this thing. Most of the time, they don't come out getting picked up by a Rolls Royce in a private jet. Like, that's one in a bazillion. Most of
Right.
these guys have to figure out life from zero. So the uncertainty of not knowing what life was going to be like, how it was going to affect my children, telling them, because once I pled guilty, then you're going to prison. Like there's no two ways about it. You're going to prison. How long you're going to prison, you don't know, because the judge can do whatever he wants. A federal judge has the ability to say, even if you make a deal and you say you're like the prosecution says you're gonna give you 5 years, the judge can still give you 10 if he wants. He can also
Mm.
give you 2 if he wants. Also, it comes down to the federal judge. They have the ability to do what they want, pretty much. They're like God in that courtroom. So now you have the element of certainty that you're going to prison. You don't know how long, and you're eventually going to have to tell your children. You're going to have to tell your friends, your family, I'm going to prison. And that for me was enough where I could no longer pretend everything was going to be okay. And
Yeah.
and that for me, that anxiety and fear manifested in drinking alcohol way too much.
Mhm.
I've never been like a big alcohol guy. I had problems with drugs growing up, and I dedicated myself to not doing drugs, like hardcore drugs. So I never had a temptation to do drugs, but alcohol was always obviously is much more socially acceptable. So I started drinking as medicine, not because I was enjoying it, but I would literally wake up with this anxiety in my chest where I'd wake up with like a heaviness, or it was
Yeah.
hard to breathe, and I would just drink a little vodka, and it would feel like it would recede a little bit. And then a few hours later, it would start to come back where I started feeling this pressure. And then I would drink a little vodka and I'd feel a little better. And I did this all day, basically, until, it got to be where I was doing it, all the time. And then I had bad repercussions for that. I crashed my boat. I had a boat that I took out at night, in the middle of the night with 2 friends of mine, thinking we were going to go out, hang out on Lake Boca. Instead, I ran into a bridge. Thank God nobody got hurt other than me. And it was like 3 a.m, so it was okay. And then I crashed a car right before I went to prison. And as a
Mm.
result of crashing the car, the judge actually put me right into prison. And that's kind of why I brought up the whole like pleading guilty thing. It sucks. Some guys probably wouldn't like this, but the truth is when you plead guilty, you should just go to prison. If they're gonna go to
That
prison,
wait's got to be fucking horrible. You don't even know what's
so
going to
bad.
happen.
It was so bad, and this is not just me saying. Every guy that I met that talked about the months that preceded from the time that they actually pled guilty to the time that they were sentenced. Some of these guys went to trial, lost, and then got out to get their affairs in orders and get. So they're getting 10 plus years. So when you're looking down the barrel of 10 years, I mean, or even honestly, even a year or 2 years, like the how you're going to behave for the next 3 or 4 months, or sometimes guys get 5 or 6 months to wait. It's just like your life is in purgatory, and
Right.
nothing is going to feel good. Nothing is going to be exciting. It's almost like you're inviting disaster when you give a guy, years in prison, and then go out there and get your stuff in order and come back and report to prison in a few months.
I couldn't even imagine. I'm sitting here trying to put myself in those shoes, and that's fucking. You're right. It's that dead space time of like
Tough.
the hell is about to happen, and what am I supposed to do between now and then? Because I know that's going to fucking happen.
It's tough
Like
because
there's
what are you going to
nothing
do?
positive about it. You're like, what the fuck?
You're going to go to work every day, and then you're like, what am I doing at work? What's the point of this? You go to your kid's baseball game, and I go to the Kink games and be like, so this is the last game I'm going to see for however long, and it's hard to enjoy anything. It was very difficult.
Why did it take so long? 3 years.
COVID. COVID.
Fucking COVID.
COVID did a lot of it. There was some delays. We were filing motions and stuff, and it took time for the judge to respond, and then the defense or the prosecution to respond, and then the judge to respond, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And then COVID happened, and it pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. Because honestly, my case, I'm a non-violent first-time offender. So in
Right.
terms of like bad guys putting people away, I mean, also my crime didn't have victims, so it wasn't like people took my pro hormones and everybody died, or there was these bodies or families that were up in arms. There was even right in court at the end they were trying to say like victims, and nobody came. There was no victims. There was no people to say, "Hey, I was hurt" or whatever. There was nobody.
Right.
So the a victimless crime, or very minimally, like some of the people said that they got from taking gynecomastia, which is what they call that bitch tits, where if they don't take an anti-estrogen, if you have too
Yeah.
much testosterone, it can convert to estrogen. So you had stuff like that. Nobody was really hurt. Nobody ended up coming to the thing. And so ultimately, in terms of like fentanyl, I mean, we're in South Florida, so down
Fentanyl.
here, it's like, I'm literally in the courtroom with people importing fentanyl from other countries and, from Mexico and gangbangers and stuff. So in comparison, my case didn't seem very important.
Right.
Plus, it's an FDA. So ultimately, my case is an FDA case, not FBI, not a DEA. FDA.
But it was the FBI that raided it, correct?
FDA. FBI
The
was never
FDA
involved.
raided it.
It's
And it took them that long to fucking come up with something against you?
Yeah, I mean, I think they looked for quite some time. I don't know how it all got going, but the FDA doesn't have a lot of resources. They're one of the more poorly funded federal organizations, and they also FDA generally is civil. It's not criminal, so it's very unusual to have a criminal FDA case. It's not like this is happening a lot. In fact, for sports supplements. This is amongst the worst in history of sports supplements for a case related to a dietary supplement.
Yeah.
So it sucked. That
Well,
whole
that's the shit. That's the shitty news. But you've got good news. Like your business is flourishing, right? You
Yeah,
get out. What's that like? Like you're like, fuck this. I got to. First of all, how long did you stay in there?
about a year, a little over 11 months.
What was that like?
So the first part was really, really bad, because the first part I went to a federal detention center, which is like a maximum security prison. And so for the first 100 days, I was in. It's called, they call it the building, which is FDC Miami, and it's just literally a big, tall building,
Right.
14 floors, and you get when you get in there, if you have basically during this time, I have to say the important note is even though COVID was kind of over in January 2022 for most people, for prison it was still full blown. They were treating it just like it was as serious as ever. So the first thing you have to do is go do quarantine for COVID, and so they would put you up in this on the 13th floor, and I was in G unit, and they would put you in a cell, and you stay in the cell for 22 hours a day, and you get out at different times to use the phone. You have two opportunities to use the phone for 7 minutes, in one every hour, and then you have a computer that you can use to send emails home, and then you can walk around the little area, watch TV, or play basketball in the little. It wasn't outdoors, but it was enclosed, like at the side of the building, and the rest of the time you're in a tiny cell with another man. 8 by 10 cell with another man with your shitter in there. And the worst part of that part was for the first 10 days there was gang violence in Beaumont, Texas, where two Mexican cartel guys killed each other. There was really MS-13 and one called Black Hand. They killed each other, and so as a result, the BOP, Bureau of Prisons, decided to shut down all federal prisons. So for the first 10 days that I was there, I was locked down in that cell for 10 days without being able to come out to shower, without being able to get toilet paper, without being able to get toothpaste, toothbrush, nothing.
Ugh.
So there was no ability to use the phone or use the computer, talk to your family, and it was rough. Those first 10
Right.
days, especially because it's like, Jason, I've achieved a level of success that I have a lot of freedoms in life. So
Right.
to go from the level of freedom where I can basically do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it to some degree or another, and things I don't want to do, I kind of almost don't have to do at this point. To going to where you have no freedom of movement, you have no choices at all. You can't eat what you want, you can't go where you want, you can't talk to who you want. You're stuck in a box with a man you don't know who's taking a shit right next to your face. Like literally the toilet is next to the beds, and nobody can take a shower. You can't take a bath. You smell like shit. You're using your clothes to wipe yourself up after you use the bathroom. I mean, it couldn't go from one more extreme to another more extreme.
Jesus.
Um, your window is like it's this thin little up bar, so you could peer through the window and see the people down on the street, 12, 13 floors down, and that's it. And there's no entertainment. You can't watch, the TV's too far away. And once you're, if you until you can get the ability to buy a little iPod thing, you can't hear the TV. So it was this first 100 days were really rough, but I felt, as weird as it sounds, man, I felt relief by the time I was there because at least I knew what I was looking at.
Yeah.
When I got sentenced, this is a big, like, people who were there, because I had hundreds of people there for my when I got sentenced, and when I went away, officially went away, and I was in chains. I was chained up, shackled in a jumpsuit, a green jumpsuit, and I came out. And when I got sentenced to 54 months, everybody, my mom, all these people were crying, were upset, all my friends. And I felt this really weird sense of relief. And I turned around, I gave everybody like
Thumbs up.
chained up thumbs up like that. And everybody was like, whoa, like, couldn't believe I gave her, like, that I was the one okay. But the truth was, all of that uncertainty, at least I was doing the math in my head. Okay, 54 months, I get a year off for the drug program. I get a year off for the first step program. I get 8 months to 12 months in a halfway house. I started thinking about, like, okay, so I'm gonna 18 months from now, I'm gonna be out of here. And now I know at least I'm on the way to being out of here
Right.
versus on the way to fucking who knows what.
Mm.
So believe it or not, even in those first 100 days, I found a lot of reason to, like, feel like hope. You know,
Yeah.
I never allowed myself to feel desperation. I never cried. I never felt sorry for myself. I didn't allow it. I just didn't
Yeah.
allow it. I feel like I'm one day closer to getting the fuck out of here and being back on the street, and all of this shit will make sense eventually.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm trying to envision it. I'm just like, holy fuck, like, but I could see how that could be a relief because the unknown is the unknown. You're looking at your wife, you're looking at your kids, your parents, family, friends, business, and you're like, I don't know what's fucking next. But when you get that answer, I could see that. I could see exactly how that could be. The weight is lifted because now you know where you're going. You've got the map in front of you to get through. Not having a map is fucking horrible.
Right. It's like I had no goal. If you don't have
Yeah.
a goal, how can you make progress if you
You
don't
called
even
it
know where you're going?
purgatory. That's what it is. You're like, I'm sitting here with the unknown. What the fuck happens next?
You
People
never
like
know.
us that are entrepreneurs that are used to manifesting and controlling our destiny by putting in hard work and doing things,
Right.
that's fucking hard because really we have a control problem. We control what we're doing going forward. And when that's no control, it fucking would drive you crazy. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good for me. I'll tell you that much, Jason. It was not good for me. But yeah, I did it. And then after the first 100 days, I went to Pensacola,
Yeah.
the federal prison camp in Pensacola. And that's where Savannah Chrisley's dad is. Todd is right now. That's how we connected. She reached out to me on Instagram to talk to me about her dad and, like, what he was going through and any advice
Yeah.
that I had for her family. And I got very close to her and her younger brother, who's really into working out. They all go to my gym in Nashville, the Red Cohen gym there, and she has a great family, great, great,
Yeah.
great family.
It's
And
fucked up what happened to them. I mean, I don't know all the details, but
I know
that
all the
shit's crazy.
details. I know all the details, and I can certainly say it was fucked up. It's fucked up what happened to them. Listen, there's three types of people in prison, and I feel bad for two of them. One of them deserves to be there.
Yeah.
I met bad guys there. I met some, especially at the detention facility. I met guys who are legitimately bad dudes. Where you're like, wow, this guy's a bad dude. He needs to be in prison. Then there's another group of people that's almost equally as big as that first group, based on where I went to the prison camp. At the camp, this other group of people are nice, good people that just made a mistake.
Yeah.
There's one doctor, I use him as an example a lot. Went to Yale. Yale, played football 4 years. Was a spinal surgeon, and he has four little boys and a wife. He owns spinal surgical centers in Texas. I don't know if I want to give how much information I give away about the guy, but in Texas, and he's well known. And him and his wife started the centers together. She kind of ran the books. He was the surgeon in charge, and then hired other surgeons to work for him. Very successful guy. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say in the realm of making around $50 million in a year doing these surgical
Yeah.
centers. So he's making real big money. He owned multiple centers. Well, along the way, he and his wife, or really his wife, unfortunately, billed Medicare incorrectly. They used a code that was wrong for some of their surgeries. And over the period of 10 years, they billed $1 million too much. Well, he found out about it and changed the code to the correct code, and he didn't self-report because he was scared. This is what he told me. I was scared. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what would happen. I mean, I didn't know what was going to be the thing that would happen to me, and I'm scared. And he said I was scared that my wife would get in trouble, and so we just changed it. We figured it out. 5 years later, 15 years into the business, there was an audit by the government. Medicare found the mistake and then found that they covered it up. So they covered it up, and he didn't want to lose his license because this is the only thing he's ever done. You know, he would have lost his license, so he decided instead of pleading guilty and getting a year in prison, he ended up fighting it, and he got 10 years in prison, and his wife got 8 years. And he would tell you the same thing. He's like, I did wrong. Like I should have told the truth. I should have changed it, and went and self-reported, and I give him back the money. And so when he went to trial, he thought that if he gave up give up $20 million, $50 million, pay some penalty, that the jury would understand. And obviously it didn't work out that way for him. But there's a large group of guys that are like this that fucked up. They just fucked up, you know. And if you're non-violent first-time offender, you know, I think that the system is really broken for people like that. And then the other group of people is a group of people that just didn't do it at all. And there's a lot of people that just didn't do it at all, that don't have the resources to fight, or they get given a situation where the government says, hey, you plead guilty and you get a year, or you go to trial and you get 10 years. And people go, well, what are you going to do? It's math, right? You know, you got to play it. You're playing by the math. 98% of federal criminal trials end in a conviction. So what are you going to do? You're going to roll the dice on those kind of numbers, or you're going to take the deal? And there are a lot of people that get scared that take the deal. And they didn't do anything wrong. They're just scared, and they don't know what else to handle it. Or they fight. They go and think that they're going to win in court. That's what Savannah's dad, Todd, did, and her mom, is they didn't think they did anything wrong, and they wanted to fight it out. And as a result, you know, we got hit pretty hard. Todd has got 10 years in prison for that. You know,
that's just crazy. It sounds broken.
It just, I think I'm pretty conservative in nature, and I do believe there are people that deserve to be in prison, and I think prison should be an available punishment, and it is a huge deterrent, I think, for some people. But ultimately, there are some people that go to prison that there's so many other options that could be used. Because ultimately, somebody like me, using myself as an example, I pay a lot of money in taxes every year, right? And I employ a lot of people. And so if hypothetically this business didn't continue, the government would lose millions of dollars a year in taxes, and then hundreds of people would lose the ability to be employed who also pay taxes. So ultimately you have to think, like, if my risk level, by the way, this is actually the government gives everybody a recidivism score. So if the government says my recidivism score is 0, what is the point of giving somebody a custodial sentence where they take you away from your family and your ability to do business and pay taxes and contribute to society? If the risk score is 0, there should be some kind of other option, in my opinion.
Right.
In my opinion. So, like, for Todd, let's say Todd did what they said, and he got these loans that he shouldn't have qualified for, these real estate stuff. If Todd's, because I guarantee you his score is 0. If his score is 0 because he's never had violence, because he's married, because he has children, because he owns a home, because he has a college education, there's all these factors. If his score is 0, what is he going to be doing in prison for 10 years? I just don't get it.
I don't know. It sounds broken, man. White Boy Rick's a good friend of mine, Rick Wershey Jr. You know his story?
Not really, no. I've heard his name though.
So I met him a couple of years ago. He ended up being like one of my best friends. But I met him. He was going to come on the show. This was probably 2021. No, 2020. It was 2020, and it was right after COVID. and someone's like, "Hey, do you want to meet White Boy Rick?" I said, "Who's White Boy Rick?" They're like, "Watch the movie." I watched the movie, and I was like, "Holy shit, I got to meet that guy."
Oh, I did
So
see
we
that
go.
movie. I did.
Yeah, so we go. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey's his dad,
Yeah.
but the movie's about 60% bullshit. Like he told me the whole stuff. He has a documentary out that's about 80 to 90% truthful. They still spun some shit they shouldn't have been there. But we sit down and we have lunch, and it ends up being dinner all the way to like midnight drinks. Like we sit down for like 8 hours. We just hit it off, and such a great dude. I remember inviting him to my house. We had a party coming up, and I'm like, "Hey, come over. We're having like a Labor Day huge get together. We had like 100 people at the house, and we got a band." And my wife's like, "You're inviting Rick?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'm inviting, dude. I love this guy." So my kids are all like, "Dude, that's White Boy Rick." I have kids that were in high school, and they're all freaking out he's there, right? But his story is fucked up. I mean, you saw the movie. Like he literally was a 15-year-old that was selling guns on the street, shotguns at the time, and then the FBI and the police have him start selling cocaine, and he does, and then they find out that he's selling it, and the other guy shoots him out of the Curry gang. Johnny Curry has him shot. He almost dies. They come and they confront the FBI. The FBI says, "Oh, we have nothing to do with this." And then he comes out a year later and just starts selling drugs on his own. He's 15, 16 years old, making 800, 900 grand cash in 85 and 86 a month, right? Wow. Driving like all these cars just crazy and working out deals with some people out in Colombia coming up through Miami, bringing in truckloads, not knowing what he's doing. Literally 15, 16 years old, does 32 years in prison. They gave him life. Back then it was, you get life for shit like that. So he had life, never hurt anybody, never raped anybody, never, did any violent crime, but it was a drug crime, and he was a teenager, and they gave him life, and he spent 32 years in there. And he is not a bitter person. He is not an angry person. He doesn't he just lives his life to the fullest. He's in the cannabis business now, and he has the 8th Amendment by White Boy Rick brand that's booming, and he's making money and buying a house and has a Lambo and has a place in Miami and does a lot of things. But it's just, that's a story where he'd probably deserve to go, but he didn't deserve to go for 32 years.
No, not if you're good. Not if you're good. A lot of the drug crimes, we have people that, like I have a guy that was in my workout, we call it a car in the prison. I had a workout car, and we go get money, which is get gains, work out together. And he was arrested when he was 18 with marijuana and a gun, and that's a big no-no. But he didn't get in a lot of it. He did like a very small sentence, and then when he was 30, he got caught with some small amount of crystal meth. But this is when crystal meth, like 2006, when crystal meth was like the fentanyl of today, right?
Yeah.
And they gave him 20 years for that, and he served 16, just got out recently. From the time he was 30 to 46 for enough crystal meth that would be like, a little something to throw in your hand. But because of the drug laws at the time with crystal meth, and because he had the prior when he was 18, he just got smacked over the head and got 20 years. So the drug crime stuff is also another one where a lot of these drug crimes, look, fentanyl is one that like, it's hard to argue because you're definitely killing people left and right with fentanyl. But a lot of the drug crimes that I have guys that have done drugs or possessed drugs, some of the sentences are astronomical. The big thing is that these judges have no idea really what they're sentencing people to. You have no real conception. I think, this will never happen, but I think it would be great if federal judges spend some time, a few days a year, and in prison just to see what it's like. Not like in where they're going to get hurt or anything, but like go to Miami in the building and spend 2 days in a cell, or even overnight in a cell, so that you see when you're sentencing somebody to 10 years of this, what you're really doing. Because I'm not saying there's not people that deserve that. I sat in line for the medical with a guy in the building who I thought seemed like a really nice guy. And usually don't really ask people, like, especially at a place like that, what you're there for. But he asked me, because I was still pretty jacked at the time. And he's like, "What are you in here for?" And so I told him pro hormones, and I told him like the story. And I said, "Well, how about you?" And he said, "Well, there's this girl, that I work with at the mall, and she was always looking at me, so I could tell she wanted it. And so we were in the parking lot, and I hit her over the head and put her in my trunk, and I was bringing her back to my house to rape her." He's like, "And I got pulled over for speed, and they caught me." And I'm like, "Okay, like,
not the same, dude. Not the fucking same."
I was so shocked. I was so shocked by the story, and he was like, "Yeah, it's federal because I brought her across state lines." And I'm like, huh? And so, like, somebody who thinks that that's okay, like, this fucking guy needs to be locked away for life. You know, this is a guy, and he said it so matter of factly that it blew me away. You know, like, that this is like just like,
Like it was a Tuesday and he ran a red light.
yeah, it was like something he definitely had done before. Put it to that way. It was not. It was not like. It was like just, you know. Yeah, that's what I. She was looking at me, so I put her in my trunk and brought her back to my house, trying to bring her back to my house.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you get out and your business is flourishing, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that the truth of the matter is that the business was flat. The business was flat. So the top line was the same, the revenue was the same. That for sure, without question, it was suffering without leadership. There was a lot of decisions that were made that I wouldn't have done. But all in all, my team did their very best. They tried their hardest. I left them a ship without a rudder. You know. I always knew I was the driving force of the business and everything, but I honestly didn't think, like, when I thought the possibility of me leaving, I didn't think that it would make as big a difference as it did. And I'm not saying the business was floundering or whatever, but it was heading in the wrong direction. And I think that if I was gone for 5 years or 3 years, maybe even 2.5 years, I don't know if the business would be here anymore.
Right.
So I don't want to say it was flourishing. I think it's now starting to flourish, but it's taken me some time to get everything redirect the troops, get everybody heading back in the right direction. And it's interesting because I honestly, when I did that private equity deal where I was talking about, I truly believed that I had a leadership team that would be able to carry on if I was gone, and it wouldn't miss a beat. And that wasn't true.
No. There's usually the person who creates the business and runs it. That's the driver. It's hard to replace that. I mean, that's why these investors are always smart to want to keep on the driver. That's the main reason they want to lock you in and say, "Hey, you still got to drive this ship because nobody drives it like you." They get it, right? So, I mean, so now the business. Okay, so now the business is picking up.
Yes. Now the business is picking up. We have so many exciting things that we're doing at this point.
Talk about some of the exciting things you're doing, because listen, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Like, I love your products. In fact, the MRE shakes. I remember it was like 2020 or 2021. We were doing. You have the blueberry cobbler one. You have all these other shakes that we were making them, and they're just so amazing. And then you've even got some that are dairy free.
Yeah. Well, the MRE, the MRE shakes are actually beef, chicken, salmon, eggs is the protein source in MRE, which is one of the products. And we have ready to drink. Here's my cooler right here of all the different drinks. I could.
There it is. Yeah.
Kind of empty right now, but I refill it.
Is that your favorite flavor, chocolate?
I actually like it's gone now, but cookies and cream is my favorite one.
I like the blueberry one. I drink the blueberry one like every day.
Very cool. Very cool. So it's kind of empty now, but that's the fridge. I mean,
what are the drinks up top? I've never seen those. What are those drinks up top?
The canned energy? Those are canned energy. Yeah.
I've never seen that.
This is the big play. The big potential is, the canned energy space is a humongous business.
Yeah, I won't say the canned energy I buy. I won't put them on the podcast. But I do buy other stuff. But I do buy your War as pre-workout. But I didn't know you had canned energy, and I'm gonna have to look at that because there's some cool flavors that myself, my 16-year-old who goes to work out all the time, my 13-year-old son, I allow him to have a little bit. But he plays football. He's a fucking workout fiend.
Yeah.
And I need every day I have to drink a pre-workout and an energy drink and a fucking coffee.
I gotta send you something, Jason. You're gonna fall in love. This shit's really good.
I'm all in on that. But I will tell you what was impressive with the War that my daughter loves the most is it has no caffeine.
You're thinking of the Big Noise.
That's what it is.
Big Noise has no caffeine. That's the
new version. It looks like War because I was buying War a lot, and it's like the clear purple one.
Yes, that's right. It's the Big Noise.
She loves that one.
Yeah, because it's got focus, nootropics for focus as opposed to caffeine, and then it has all the pump ingredients to get you a better pump and more endurance in the gym.
Yeah, she takes it. She's like, dude, I could work out like nobody's business. She's like, I don't miss a beat.
That's neat. I love it.
Yeah. So cool. Good. Listen. So you got some cool things going on there. I've seen. We have a mutual friend in Wes Watson. I saw you. He came and visited you. Mm-hmm. That's a big angry motherfucker. Sometimes I love that guy, but he could be a little big and angry.
Yes, he's certainly angry. And he, by the way, he went to a whole different kind of prison than I did.
Yeah.
He went to the real deal warrior school. Craziness.
Yeah, and his story's a little different because he really, he started to build his brand while he was in there. I had him on the show, but he has got a great coaching program now, doing things. I saw you two together, and then, but you're down there in Miami.
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida. So
Well, fuck, I'm going to be in Boca speaking Friday. We should try to get together.
what time? How are you?
Well,
Here
if
for the weekend?
you got family shit, like I'm going to be there at the Ignite Entrepreneur Ignite thing. I speak at 6, but I'm there. Their events start at 5.
How long
I did
are
a
you in
TED
town?
Talk in Boca. I come in Thursday night with the wife, and I leave Saturday midday.
Well,
We're going to be looking at houses down there, so we're talking about moving down there in June.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll be here Thursday. I go to Colorado for Deion Sanders game for Friday and Saturday. But I'll be
Okay.
back Saturday night, which you'll probably be gone. But I will be here
Yeah,
Thursday.
no, we'll get together. We'll get together. Like I do want to connect.
You get a house here, you're gonna fall in love. Boca is the best place to raise a family. I love it here.
See, I've been torn, and our boy Zach is like, dude, you gotta move here. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's got the. We're so sick of North Carolina. We lived in Birmingham, Michigan. We loved it, but my wife hated the weather there, and we had a house in Fort Lauderdale for a while, but I just didn't like Fort Lauderdale. It was too grimy.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Boca salesperson. Like I can't help but sell it. I mean, it's a great combination of a lot of things. There's a lot of success and money here, and I personally like being around that because it inspires
I do
me.
too.
And growing up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and never really being around that kind of thing, to move here and see it, it made me realize that if all these people can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And you have the combination of that. A lot of families. There's a lot of families. Boca, when I was a kid, my great grandmother lived here, and it was all old Jewish people, like getting ready to die Jewish people, and that was what Boca was. And now Boca has become really young and vibrant. There's a lot of culture. There's new restaurants all the time. Obviously, Zach loves the Boca Beach Club, which is unbelievable, wonderful place to go.
Yeah.
Where there's all kinds of great restaurants, and they've really done a great job with the place.
Well,
And then there's just a lot of nice people. And compared to like Miami and Fort Lauderdale, it's a very different kind of scene. So
Yeah.
like they have the same things that we just talked about, minus the family stuff in Miami, but it's more like showy, like see what I got kind of thing, versus Boca's more like normal people who are living a good life,
yeah, I think I'm more that. I've already been down the alley of all the Aventadors and the Ferraris and all that. I like that. I've done all that. I don't care about any of that.
You're still gonna see all that in Boca.
I know, but it's not a look at me vibe like Miami, right? It's like this is normal life, and that's what I like to be around. And the other thing is do they got a good football program there? My son plays a shit ton of football. He's a really badass quarterback, and I got to get him in a good school to play.
That I don't know, because my guys are all younger. My oldest is 11, and they're playing football.
My
now.
youngest is 13, so it's like a couple years apart. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great schools here. I don't know, like, what the private schools versus like Boca High, how these schools are in football. I know that the private schools, like where my kids go to school, it seems like sports are a huge deal. God knows they always ask for money for sponsorships for everything, even though I'm paying a fortune for these kids to go to school. But they have a lot.
How many kids do you have?
3 little boys.
What are the ages?
11, 8, and 6.
Oh, those are great ages. So I've got 4 kids, 24, 19, 16, and 13. 3 girls, 1 boy. Then I have 2 grandkids, 4 and 2.
Oh, wow.
So I'm also supporting my daughter, and she's getting ready to open up her own business. She's a assistant for me, but she has 2 kids, and their dad's a piece of shit. So he's never around.
Right.
And then my 19-year-old goes to Bama. So she lives in Bama and comes back. And then my 16-year-old, we're trying to get out of here because there's a lot of coal ash and cancer and stuff. My wife's very like, we got to go. So my 16-year-old doubled down on our classes. She's supposed to be a junior. She'll graduate as a senior. She's trying to go to LSU.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
So she can compete with her sister when they play football and talk shit too. That was the other reason she wanted to go there.
That's cool. LSU is a great school to go to. I lived in Baton Rouge for 4 years. I was supposed to go to LSU, but instead I became a personal trainer and just focused on the girls and alcohol and drugs and stuff.
All the stuff you're not supposed to. So Boca, you got a gym there, Redcon gym in Boca?
Yeah, Redcon one gym in Boca and then one in Nashville as well. And the Boca gym is tremendous. You'll fall in love.
I'll have to check that out because the only gym I've been to in Boca was Lifetime.
There couldn't be any more different than Lifetime. Not that Lifetime's bad. Lifetime's
I've always liked Lifetime. I was a Lifetime and Equinox member in Michigan.
Yeah.
They had one right next to each other. It was a very bougie ass city in Birmingham, and I loved them. And so when we stayed in Fort Lauderdale, I hated the fucking gyms in Fort Lauderdale. Hated them. So I would drive all the way up to Boca just to go to Lifetime.
Well,
but I didn't know about your gym.
When you go to my gym, you'll never look back. Trust me. We don't have the stuff. We have cool auxiliary stuff like cryo chamber, cold plunge, infrared sauna, those types of things. But it's not. We don't have like a nail salon or like a.
And I don't need any of that shit.
Or
I don't need any of that shit.
It's a combination of hardcore and elegant. So that's what I tell people. It's hardcore elegant. So it has all the coolest equipment. I personally pick all of the equipment. It's stuff that I've used and loved since I was 13 years old. I refurbish it and I collect it like you'd be a connoisseur of cars or fine wine. I do that with equipment. So it's the best of the best equipment. I switch stuff out all the time. And because I do the gym not for money, but because I love it. I mean, obviously it's great. It makes money, but I never thought like this is going to pay the bills. I switch stuff out a lot and make the gym very, very unique. So you'll go in there and you'll be motivated for sure.
I might check it out Friday while I'm there, since I don't have to go to the thing till 5, so I'll have to check it out.
Let me know.
You guys got the day pass. I will. Listen, I'll shoot you my I DM'd you in Instagram, so you'll have my cell number. Let's catch up. This is a great story. I'm glad that you came on here and shared this. I think people are going to be like really interested. How did that work? How that went down? And just to hear how you bounce back, like how you're living your life now, how you're a great father, you're a great, husband, you're a great business owner. The business is starting to flourish. It didn't hold you back. I think that's so important in today's world. And I try to tell my kids this, and I try to tell people I coach this, that everyone has problems. It's all relative. Everybody has their shit. How you react to your shit is so key. You can either sit and complain and bitch and kick your feet up and whine and make excuses, or you could say, you know what, I'm one day closer to getting this done. I'm one day closer to getting out of this and fucking changing things and being better and doing better. And I think that that's so key because, our stories are different, but they're also similar. Like, everything I knew that I was, this was my 4th company I built. I lost everything. $400 million. I go, holy shit, to, okay, what am I going to do now? For 90 days, I was like fucking just depressed. Like, I don't even know what to do. Now I'm building companies. I'm doing some speaking. We got a reality TV show. Like, it's like, okay, like this doesn't stop your life. It's just a bump. And I think that that's important that people hear your story and they're like, fuck, like, because you went into details where I felt like I was there, like not shitting, not having toilet paper to shit and not showering for a fucking week, smelling some other asshole. And then some guy randomly telling you, yeah, I knocked this fucking girl off in the head and fucking tried to take her to rape, got caught, like it's no big deal. Holy shit. But I appreciate you sharing the story.
Of course, brother. Of course. It's my pleasure. And God knows there's a lot more stories that I got in the book. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. What's the book called and when does it come out?
It's Raising Redcon, and it's coming out in February.
Bam, that'll be exciting.
Yeah,
all right, well, I have got maybe you're around January 5th, but I will be in Del Rey or Boca area. We're going to have, for our Bam Fam show coming out on Amazon Prime, we're going to have a viewing party down there. So I've got Cindy Meltzer, who's my PR person, setting up a party. Zach's supposed to come. I think some of the other friends we both mutually know down there should show up. So let's see if we can get you there. At least we can hang out and get to know each other better and fucking celebrate that. I appreciate you, man. Thanks, Aaron. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Of course. My pleasure.
All right. Bam. All right, let me see.